Hey everyone, I'm Pastor Jay and welcome to Simple Church Online. Whether you missed last Sunday, you're checking us out for the first time, or maybe even watching out of state, we're so glad that you're a part of our community. And we're praying today that as you watch, God would use this to bless your life. Enjoy the message. Hey, well, good morning. Welcome. How many people are feeling the hour right now? That lost hour. I'm feeling a little bit too. You should have been at our 9 o'clock, man. They did good, actually. I was impressed, but you can tell people missed an hour. So, hey, I'm glad that you're here, and we are ready to catch up on this series. This thing. If you know how to fix things, then come see me after, because this thing is driving me crazy. But we've been in this series called What You Believe. This is like week 7, I think. And we're on this journey of discovering truth. And so if this is your first time here, I would suggest go back and listen to the ones before. But the whole idea of this series is to find truth. And I don't want you to find truth because I say so or because the church says so. I want you to find what truth is and go after that. Where's the proof? Where's the science? Where's the logic? What does it all point to? And as we've talked over these last several weeks about how all the proof, the logic, the reasoning, mathematics, all of that stuff, it all points to the fact that there's an immaterial, spaceless, timeless, powerful, personal God that created all this and created us with a purpose. The proof is out there. The science supports it. It all points to a God. So we've been having this conversation. Well, what God is the right God? We talked about all the world religions and kind of narrowed it down to Islam, Judaism, and Christianity really fit the mold for the way this whole thing was created. And so we talked a little bit about each of those. And then we talked about how in history there's this man named Jesus. History proves that. That's pretty much, it's not pretty much, it is worldwide accepted that there was a man named Jesus that lived during the Bible time. And so that kind of catches us up. We talked about the Bible, how we know that it stands well above any other ancient book. You can prove that it's real, all those things. And again, we didn't use the Bible to do that. We use logic, reasoning, science, mathematics, history, you name it, to prove that these things are true. And so again, I'm not asking you to believe in something because of blind faith. I'm asking you to find what is the most complete truth and go after it. And then Taylor did an amazing job last week of talking about the purpose for Jesus Company and absolutely killed it. Every time she speaks, someone's like, you better watch out. I'm like, what does that mean? Better watch out. Dang. I'm like, okay. So anyway, no, I appreciate her doing that. And she's doing such a great job of leading our teens. And I've got 2 teens in there, and they just absolutely love it. And so we're so blessed to have Taylor and all of our staff as well. And so today I want to talk about Jesus a little bit more. And I just want to say this as a kind of a disclaimer before we get into this. As we've discovered over the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks, whatever it is, there is enough evidence to prove the God of the Bible. It's out there. And really, to be honest with you, the burden of proof is on anything that's not Christianity. There's enough proof out there to reasonably know that this stuff is true. So really, the burden of proof is on everything else. So as you go out into this world, have confidence as a Christ follower that it's really not on you to prove that this stuff isn't true because it's already been proved by science and logic and reasoning and nature and all those things. It's really on everyone else to prove it. I'm telling you right now, I've watched countless hours of debates on Islam versus Christianity, Judaism versus Christianity, atheism versus Christianity. There's not a single argument that goes against Christianity. It's just not out there. And so, again, I challenge you, do your research, but also have a firm foundation knowing that the proof is there, and actually the burden of proof is on other people to provide to you. So that's the disclaimer. But how do we know that Jesus is God? And so we're going to look at several things inside of the Bible and also outside of the Bible, because we claim as Christians, and again, it's what separates us from the other world religions, that Jesus was God. Now take Islam, as we talked about. Islam accepts that Jesus was a good prophet, but he was not God. Here's the problem with that, though. In order to do that, you have to remove half of the New Testament. You have to say, okay, I'll accept part of the New Testament, but not all of it. And so you have to kind of remove and pick and choose which ones you want to follow, because Jesus himself in the New Testament claimed to be God. When he was before Caiaphas, he said, are you the Christ? And he said, yes, I am the Christ. I'm the Son of the Blessed One. And then if you go into John, this was a really interesting situation that Jesus found himself in. In John chapter 8, he's speaking to a crowd of Jewish believers there, and he says to them in verse 56, "Your father Abraham rejoiced as he looked forward to my coming. He saw it and was glad." And the people said, "You aren't even 50 years old. How can you say you've seen Abraham?" And Jesus answered, "I tell you the truth, before Abraham was even born, I am." At that point, they picked up stones to throw at him, but Jesus was hidden from them and left the temple. I can promise you those Jewish people that picked up the stones didn't think he was just a good man. He made the statement, "I am." Why is that so important? Because that's the same statement that God made to Moses when he said, "Hey, who should I tell him sending me?" You tell him, "I am sent you." And so here we have Jesus saying, I am God. I'm the one. He can't be a good person and make that claim. Let's say you have a good neighbor named Bill. Bill's a good dude. He helps you out. Bill also says, "Hey, I'm God." And he's not. You may think he's a good dude, but you're going to say something's a little bit off with Bill, okay? If Bill tells you he's God, I'm not going to really trust anything else that he says. He may be a nice guy, may help me with some projects or something. He's probably insane, right? So we can't just say that Jesus was a good guy who also said that he was God and not accept that. It has to be one or the other. It's the lunatic argument. Either he was insane or he wasn't. The other argument we see is that he could have been a liar. He could have just made this up. He could have been really good about making things up and having people follow him. Well, that's good to an extent until people start dying for the lie. I was in a class called Principles of Technology in 10th grade. For whatever reason, my 10th grade year, I decided to take a whole bunch of hard classes. And so I took Principles of Technology, and this class was brutal. Well, our teacher was gone one day, and one of the guys, not me, I was a good rule follower, found the test key, the book that they used to have, and he went and he took it to the office, and he copied it for everyone. And now, typically, I wouldn't cheat because I've always had a big conscience, and I didn't want to do anything wrong. But this class was tough, right? And so me and about 12, 13 other people, we all got the answers, copied it. Well, this was not an easy class, and nobody made hundreds on tests. So for it to have like 13 to 15 people make 100 on the same test, it was like, something's up. And so they were going to flunk us all, or they, give us all a 0 on the test. They were going to give us all detention. And to this day, I still don't know who it is. If I find them, it's on. But they told on us, and they gave it up, right? I guess so they wouldn't get in trouble. So we did. We got detention, all of those things. Okay, that's kind of a silly example for what would have happened in Christianity when people started dying for their belief in Jesus, right? At some point, someone's going to be like, okay, hold up. This isn't adding up. I'm not dying for this guy. But all the disciples did. They died for him. So clearly he's not a liar because it stands the test of time. And there's a great argument that says Jesus is one of three things. He's a lunatic, a liar, or Lord. That's it. That's the options. We have to make a decision on who he is. So we can't just accept that Jesus was a good man and leave it there because of the claims that he made. But how do we know that Jesus was God? How do we know that he was the Messiah, the one who was sent to save us? Well, in order to do that, we have to look at the prophecies that we see in the Bible. Something really cool happened in 1947. There was a young Arab boy who was tending sheep, and he threw a rock at a stray goat, and after he threw the rock, he heard pottery break. So he went to see what was going on, and it was a pretty massive discovery known as the Dead Sea Scrolls. And if you've ever studied the Dead Sea Scrolls, one of the greatest finds in archaeological history. And so for 9 years, they excavated these caves, and they found all kinds of scrolls and manuscript fragments, thousands of manuscript fragments from the Bible. They found everything but the full book of Esther inside of these caves. And if you want to know, their group called the Essenes had broken away, and they went to these caves, and they preserved all this. Anyway, if you're a big nerd like me, man, I eat stuff like this up. But they found these scrolls, and one of the major findings is what they call the Great Isaiah Scroll. This is a 24-foot scroll dated to 100 BC that contains the entire book of Isaiah, all 66 chapters inside of the scroll. It's an amazing, amazing find. And if we study just that scroll that was found, so you're talking 100 years before Jesus was even around, we have a pretty detailed list of what the Messiah would look like, what this God coming to earth would look like. And so I want to just taking Isaiah, just the book of Isaiah, here's what we know about the Messiah that would come. He is elected by the Lord and anointed by the Spirit. Justice is a primary concern of his ministry. His ministry will have an international scope. God predestined him for this calling. He's a gifted teacher. His ministry extends to the Gentiles or the non-Jews. He will encounter strong opposition and resistance to his teaching. He is determined to finish what God has called him to do. He has humble origins with little outward prospects for success. He experiences suffering and affliction. He accepts suffering on behalf of his people. He is put to death after being condemned. He comes back to life and is exalted above all rulers. He lives a sinless life. Who does that sound like? It's amazing that 100 years later, a man would come along and fulfill all of these things in the person of Jesus. And again, when you look at the numbers of fulfilling prophecy, it really kind of blows away any idea that Jesus was not who he said he was. And so I want to kind of go down a little bit of this rabbit hole. And if you're a numbers nerd like me, then you'll enjoy this. But I want to talk about this idea of fulfilling prophecies, of what that looks like and the chances of that happening. So they've done studies showing if a person were to fulfill 8 Old Testament prophecies, the chances of that are 10 to the 17. So 10 with 17 zeros after it. Again, if you have that money in your bank account, you're doing all right? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of change. So 10 to 17. So what does that look like? What does that percentage look like? Let's say you took that amount of silver dollars and scattered it across Texas. It would be 3 feet deep across all of Texas with silver dollars. Now, imagine that you took one of those silver dollars, you put a mark on it, and then you mixed them all up in the state of Texas, right? It'd be a big mixer because it's Texas, and everything's bigger in Texas. Anyway, right? So you mix them all up. Then you blindfold a guy, you drop him off anywhere in Texas, and he picks the one that's marked. That would be the chance of one person fulfilling 8 prophecies. Again, our human brain would be like, that's impossible. Yeah, that's impossible that wasn't fulfilled by Jesus. But you can go even further than that because Jesus fulfilled more than 8 prophecies. So there was a professor who took 48 prophecies. So for one person to fulfill 48 prophecies, this is a conservative number. The probability is 1 in 10 to the 157 zeros. Okay? Again, if you have that in your bank account, give me some money. Actually, give the entire world money because you could give everybody billions and billions and billions of dollars. Okay? It's a number that's almost too hard to fathom. So what I want to do, I heard this illustration and I was like, okay, this may be too far, but I love it. So turn your brain on right here. And again, it's important for us to engage our brain as Christ followers. Too often we don't do that and we just go along with the flow or whatever. It's okay to engage your brain. It's okay to know what you're talking about. It's okay to be confident in your thought about this thing too. Now, it needs to be in the heart. We're going to talk about that. But we got to, as Christians, we got to start engaging our brain. Yeah, I'm not saying, hey, everybody has to be able to regurgitate all this. That's not the expectation. But we need to be ready to have some conversations. So here's what it would look like to fulfill 48 prophecies. We're going to look at electrons. Now, electrons are really small. They're smaller than an atom. So you can imagine how tiny these things are. It would take 2.5 times 10 to the 15 of them to make 1 inch of electrons. Okay? This is how many that is. If you could count 250 of these electrons each minute, it would take you 19 million years to count them. Okay? Again, try to wrap your brain a little bit around how big this is. So the chance of one person fulfilling 48 prophecies is like marking one of those electrons that it would take you 19 million years to count. One of those, mixing them up with a little electron mixer, shrinking somebody down, I guess, making them really small, Willy Wonka style, and then you place them in there and they pick blindfolded that one marked electron, okay? Here's why that's so hard for us to grasp. When you get to 10 to the 50 zeros, it's almost an impossible number for our human brains to understand. So 48 prophecies is 10 to the 157 zeros. It's hard for us to compute. Here's the deal. That's 48 prophecies. Jesus fulfilled at least 300 prophecies. And most scholars say 456 prophecies were fulfilled by Jesus. The number's incalculable. They literally can't calculate it. Like they had to stop at 48 because our brains can't handle anything else. So big, and the professor who did this, actually, he made this statement, I think it's so true. Any man who rejects Christ as the Son of God is rejecting a fact, proved perhaps more absolutely than any other fact in the world. And really what Jesus does and what the New Testament gives us, the proof that we have, it really eliminates the question of whether or not Jesus was God. And I've I've been intrigued by the Jewish culture and understanding, and I've got a chance to talk to a rabbi about this thing because I really don't understand. They fully accept the Old Testament. They know the prophecies, probably better than most Christians do. And I've never been able to reconcile why they don't believe Jesus is God. And a lot of it's just culture and the way that they've been. And there's, matter of fact, Frank Turek in his book here, he talks about this encounter. And basically what happens is the rabbi said, well, our tradition says that he's not God, so we just kind of go with that. Because they encounter things like Isaiah 53, and it makes it really, really difficult for them. It really removes any doubt that Jesus is God. So here's what we're left with. We're left with all this information, all this proof that's in nature and science and logic and reasoning. Once we prove the Bible, it's inside the Bible. We're left with all of these things, and we're left with this person of Jesus and making a decision on who is Jesus to me. And I think C.S. Lewis said it the best, as he did with most things. And so I want to read his quote about this idea of Jesus and who he was. And he says this: I'm trying here to prevent anyone saying the really foolish things that people often say about Jesus. I'm ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claims to be God. That is the one thing we must not say. A man who was merely a man and said the sort of things Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would rather be a lunatic, on a level with a man who says he is a poached egg, or else he would be the devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool, you can spit at him and kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about his being a great human teacher. He has not left that open to us. He did not intend to. And so the truth is, we can have this discussion when we go through this series and we talk about all this stuff, and that's great. And again, I think Christians need to know that. I'm not expecting you to go to coffee with an atheist and say, let me tell you about electrons. If you take 2.5 times 10 to the 15, you line them up and you shrink something, they're going to be like, what are you talking about, man? It's important for us to have some information to support, to have some groundwork. But it's also important for you individually to make a decision on who Jesus is in your life. It's the greatest decision that you will ever make, and no one can make it for you, not even God himself. He gives you all the evidence. He gives you all the things that he can to lead you back to him, but it's your choice. He gives us free will to choose whether to come back to him or not. You've got to make a decision for yourself, and the truth is, it can't be just knowledge in your head. Matter of fact, James even says the demons believe in Jesus. It's not even enough to believe in him in your head. At some point, you've got to believe in your heart that Jesus is who he says he is. That Jesus accomplished exactly what Taylor talked about last week, that he came and bought us back, that he did exactly what the Messiah was supposed to. At some point, you've got to decide for yourself in your heart that this is true. And that's the moment when it changes. That's the moment when everything is different. When you look at the evidence, you say, okay, I can thoughtfully believe this, but because I can thoughtfully believe it, in my heart, I can accept what Jesus did, who he is, and what he said. And what did he say? For God so loved the world that he sent his one and only Son, that whosoever believes in him will not perish or have everlasting life. There's a reason that's the most famous scripture, because it's everything that we believe in one verse, that God loved you enough to come down as Jesus, to die on a cross for you, that we're going to celebrate, at Easter in a couple of weeks, to die in your place so that you could have a connection with him again, and so that you could have eternity in a perfect heaven. It's everything right there. And that's what you can believe, because once you go down this line, it's proved to you, you can believe what Jesus said about you. And it changes everything when it becomes part of your heart, not just here. And American Christianity is so much right here. Church does not save you. Coming on Sundays does not save you. Owning a Bible does not save you. You knowing who Jesus is at the core and giving your life over to it, that's what changes you. That's what you need. And I'm telling you right now, once you get that, once it comes in here and it settles in you, that's when you experience the fullness of who you are. And I've been in ministry for 21 years now, almost 22 years. I'm telling you, I've seen it. Most Christianity is hoping that this stuff is true and walking around with a roller coaster life, just trying to get through it. 90% of American Christianity, I would say, live that way because it never rooted. There wasn't a foundation. And I'm asking you, that's the point of this series, is I hope to create some questions in you to maybe deconstruct your faith so that you can reconstruct it in the right way. If your God is still the God of your 8-year-old self, something's wrong. Your God needs to grow up, okay? And it can't just be that you know these things about Jesus. You have to encounter him. It has to be rooted in you. And I'm telling you, I've walked this journey. I've shared a little bit about, growing up. And I remember going to youth group, and I didn't connect the way that other students did. And I felt like something was wrong with me. And I didn't connect with the worship. Now, to be fair, we were singing My Jesus is a Rock and He Rolls My Blues Away. Just terrible stuff. We have great music now. But I just didn't connect. And even on the serious songs, there were teens that were crying or raising their hands, and I didn't feel that. And so I thought, something's wrong with me. I'm broken. Either there's no God or I'm just messed up and he doesn't want anything to do with me. And I'm saying even into ministry, even being a pastor, a youth pastor at that time, I still felt that way. Well, the thing is, I'd never discovered Jesus for myself. I grew up in church. I followed the person who they had their faith, so I'm just going to do what they do. It was never my Jesus and my faith. And so I had to go on a journey of breaking down, deconstructing, and that's kind of a hot topic right now, and people are like, oh, you shouldn't deconstruct. And yes, I wouldn't say, hey, walk away from God and deconstruct your life. No, but maybe you do need to deconstruct your faith and rebuild it on a firm foundation. That's what I had to do in my life. I'm telling you, it's life-changing when you get to that moment. And again, I don't want you to believe just because that's my experience. Yes, I'm passionate about it. I'm going to preach my heart out because I believe this. I believe it'll change your life. I believe it'll change your family. I believe it'll change it for generations. I believe you can break cycles. I believe that you can break addictions. I believe that all these things can be true because of Jesus. Yes, I believe that. But it's because I went on a journey to discover it for myself, to find the most complete truth, to find the thing that made sense. And as a matter of fact, I got to a point where it was like, I'm going to find this out, and either it's true or it's not. If it's not true, I'm walking away. I'm done with this. And you know what I've seen over and over again? So many people have went out on a journey to disprove Christianity only to become Christians. Read Lee Strobel, kind of a tough read. He's really smart. He set out to disprove Christianity, atheist all the way, became a Christian. J. Warner Wallace, if you don't know him, he's a homicide detective who set out to use his skills as a homicide detective to disprove Christianity, became a Christian, now uses it to prove Jesus. It's phenomenal what happens when you go after the answers. But you have to do that. It can't be your church's faith. It can't be your pastor's faith. It has to be your faith. That's when it becomes real. That's when it becomes life-changing for you. That's when you feel the things that you look around, you see other Christians feeling that you're not feeling. You're not broken, you just haven't found it for yourself. And so the goal is for you to go on that journey, and I hope that this series has created some conversations and created some questions for you. Go on that journey. There's all kinds of stuff out there. And maybe for some of you, this series has been a chance to get some information to go out and have some tough conversations and share your faith. For the longest time, I was so afraid of having these kind of conversations. I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not. I study hard and I love this stuff. But I was worried for a long time because I was a pastor. And you know what it's like to someone to come to you and ask you something about the Bible, and you're like, I don't know. Like, it's your job, bro. You should know that. So for the longest time, I just backed away from these conversations. But then I discovered something. Everything leads to the truth. So if I don't know the answer, I'll go find it. As a Christ follower, let me just tell you this in case you didn't know, you're on the winning team. You know that, right? You know how this ends. I think we've got to strip all this fear away. It's like, I say it like this, and I know I probably need to wrap up. Back in the day, before I had kids, I used to watch, sports all the time. and my team would be losing because I'm an OSU fan. And not as much anymore, but we had some rough years, right? If you're an OSU fan, you know what I'm talking about. We went through some rough spells there. But I would turn it off because you just get tired and I heard somebody say we pick our favorite team at like age 8 and then we let them ruin our life for the rest of our life. What's up with that? But yeah, that's pretty much sports. But I would turn the game off. We'd be getting blown out. Terrible, right? And I'd check the score later and I'd be like, wait, we won? How did we do that? And the truth is, it didn't really matter how we got there. We won, right? And I feel like that's what Christians need to get in their head. Like, we win. So you know what that means? You don't have to be real arrogant with your opinion and stuff like that because we already won. You can just go love people and tell them about Jesus. And you don't have to worry about if you don't have the answer because all roads are going to lead you to the answer once we seek and find it. We just got to start believing what we say we believe. We got to start committing to this, going all in. Don't dip the toe in on Jesus anymore. And I feel like we're in a place right now, certainly in America, but I just think in history where we've got to make a decision about where we stand on this. You can't be on the fence with Jesus. Matter of fact, Jesus said that himself. He's like, don't be lukewarm. Like, get out of here with that mess. Like, either be hot or cold, but don't straddle the fence with me. Like, this is too serious. They're talking about souls on the line. Make a decision. And so I want to challenge you. Again, find Jesus for yourself. Don't expect your parents to do it. Don't expect your church to do it. Don't expect your pastor to do it. Don't expect your spouse to do it. Find Jesus for yourself. Have that confidence, have that grounding, and then see if he is everything that he said. And so for some of you, again, this is the start of the journey. Go on that journey. Ask the questions you need to ask. Find what you need to find, and find the real Jesus for yourself. For some of you, this is a continuation of the journey, okay? Hopefully giving you a little confidence, a little bit of grounding. Maybe you've been in church for a while and you just, like, it was an emotional thing at times, and that's why you made the decision. Maybe this grounds you a little bit to give you some confidence in your faith. And for some of you, you've been sitting on your behind for too long. You need to get out of the game and get out there and save some people, right? Hopefully this gives you some confidence to do that, to get out there and love those people. So I don't know where you're at on that journey, but my hope and my prayer for you is that you, for yourself, find your faith, find who Jesus is for you. That's the goal, and I'm telling you, it will be life-changing for you. Go on that journey. Let me pray for you. Father, today, thank you for your word. Today, we just pause and say thank you for Jesus. There's a reason that our slogan here is just Jesus, because he was the bridge. He was the one who came. He was the one who gave up his life, who paid a ransom that we could never pay. God himself coming down here with us to die on our cross. And so today there's not even words for it. And my prayer is that because of that we live a life of righteousness and gratitude, not because we have to, or not because we don't want to go to hell, but because we're so grateful for what Jesus did for us that we can't help but love well and live well. And so I challenge each and every person in here to find their faith. If they never have, start the journey. If they've got it, be bold about it, whatever that looks like for them. Help us to stand out. I pray that people at Simple Church, that when they walk out of these doors Monday through Saturday, that people look at them and say, I don't know what it is, but I want what you have. And the truth is that every single person is looking for truth. And we've got it. And it's time for Christ followers to take that message out into the world. Help us to lead the way in that. Pray in Jesus' name. And everyone said, amen. Amen. Once again, thank you for stopping by today. We'd love for you to be a part of our family at one of our services at 9 or 11 on Sunday. You can find out all of our information at simplechurchtulsa.com. And we'd love to pray for you any way we can. So please message us, and we hope you have a great week.